Hello everyone and welcome to His Author's Voice. I am the author, Jack Sango. In the following tale, someone experiences events which seem completely impossible. How would you react if you were in her circumstances? The Hitchhiker. Who knows where a story truly begins? Taken to a philosophical extreme, every story probably has echoes from the dawn of speech, and thus by a domino effect of chance and intention, to every tale we tell today. But since Einstein, we've learned that all of time is available to us, and not a winged arrow as we once thought. So, in this story, I'm beginning to wonder about the origin of my tale. Is it from the past or the future in old money? I'm a pretty sane woman, daughter of God-fearing, no-nonsense Western Isle parents, a botanist who loves proof. Proof is not just holding the seed of a rare carnivorous orchid in the palm of your hand. It is planting it in the laboratory soil and watching it grow to flower. It is the whole thing. All this is a preamble to describing my experience of encountering a dreamlike or nightmarish mystery of a profound kind. I was out foraging for mushrooms for supper. I have a stone cottage in the Highlands, a bothy at the base of a mountain and on the edge of woodland. It is my retreat and my wild laboratory. Anyway, I was heading for the woods, knapsack on my back and a rake stick to pull away leaves. The last signs of human habitation on my projected walk was a tiny ancient churchyard with a ruined kirk. It was early in the morning. The sun was glancing low when I heard a strange, hollow tapping among the fallen headstones. I climbed over the fallen perimeter wall and rounded a split yew tree. There before me was a tableau straight out of Hieronymus Bosch. Two very large white wolves sat on their haunches, facing each other. Between them was what I assumed to be a wolf cub, but it was tapping out a steady rhythm on a human skull with a child's lower arm bone clenched in its little fist. It seemed human on second viewing, perhaps 2 years old, covered in white fur. The wolves were giving little snuffles and growls. The child was growling back. Now I know as well as the next person that wolves became extinct in Scotland long ago. Yet my scientist's brain was registering 2 wolves. They both turned to me. Sunlight threw a gold sheen across much of their white bodies, highlighting the yellow orbs of their eyes. I panicked as they stood up, holding the rake in front of me. But they made a strange gesture in unison. They stretched out their front paws and lowered their muzzles to the ground. Then they sloped off into the woods. As they disappeared, the child dropped its pagan drumstick and opened its arms wide. "Mama," it said. A wave of unbidden tremors shook my body. Tears filled my eyes. There, I murmured as I gathered it into my arms. I say it because at this stage I could not tell the child's gender. It felt warm in my arms, despite the cool air. I had a shawl in my knapsack. I took it out and wrapped the child up. White fur had already started to peel from its skin. It was pale pink beneath. We headed back to my bothy. By the time we reached it, most of the fur was in the shawl. I shook it out and took the child inside. All the while, I made endearing little murmurs. The child looked up at me in undoubted joy, gurgling and whispering, "Mama." Then I bathed him, all now being revealed to me. His hair was shampooed, leaving it the same colour as mine, auburn, and the eyes too mirrored my grey-green pupils. He giggled during his bath. Afterwards I lay on the bed, with his little head resting on my breasts. Here was I, 50 years old and childless, suddenly with child, and awash with all kinds of new emotions. After we dozed for a couple of hours, I got up to make lunch. Warm milk for Rom, short for Romulus, mashed potato, peas and broccoli with strips of grilled tofu. Romulus glugged the milk. He ate his lunch slowly, turning food over in his mouth as if to gauge its value. But once used to it, he ate everything in his little bowl. My mind tried to find logic in the morning's events. They were so outrageous to my sense of order and predictability. I did some internet searching on wolves in Scotland. I discovered that they allegedly dug up skeletons in graveyards. So crofters shipped bodies to the islands where the wolves could not reach them. Then there was a plethora of myths about feral children being nursed by animals, apes, lions, wolves. One boy in Spain in the 1800s lived for 12 years with wolves between the age of 7 and 19. The Roman wolf fable we all know, which is why, of course, I named him Rom. Rom liked my laptop. He laughed and clapped hands. "Mama, Rom want." I held it for him. He punched random keys at first, but soon a logic defined his play. He recovered my history on wolves and expanded it, gurgling with delight at the images. I was thrown back into full-blown panic. What kind of creature had I found, or more likely had been presented to me? I set him up in a chair with cushions and the laptop in front of him and phoned George, my cousin who lives in Oban. He has 3 young children. He might help. I WhatsApped him. "Hi George, it's Belle here." "Hi Belle, what's cooking?" I launched into my story. When I finished, he muttered, "For fuck's sake. Anyone else and I'd just laugh. Show me." I turned the camera on Rom, who was busy, fingers now very dexterous. Rom looked up and waved. "Dada!" he called, before going back to his new obsession. "Fuck me," said George. "I'll be there in an hour with clothes and stuff. Stay calm, Belle." When George arrived, I was exhausted. Rom had insisted on taking me through his increasingly accurate searches. From wolves, he'd moved on quickly to end up in astronomy. Images of supernovae, earliest galaxies after the dawn of the universe, close-ups of the planets and the great black hole at our galaxy's centre. Finally he had pointed to his coup de grace, a blurry, tiny solar system, which, of course, meant nothing to me. "My sun," he said. "My Earth." I was exhausted from my brain trying to comprehend the weirdness of the experience. I was Alice, in a wonderland of a kind even Lewis Carroll could never have imagined. We discussed what should be done, ignoring the glaring reality that this was no normal human child. First, the legalities. No, we couldn't register him in the system, hand him over to medical science, a case, a specimen for ignorant doctors and physicists to drool over, a cause célèbre. But what then? How to protect him? How to deceive the system? And then what? What would he become? Would we be the ones that needed protecting? We decided George would take him for the time being and pass him off as his cousin's son. We would work out our strategy carefully over the months. I felt relieved. The strange bond with Rom had dissipated as quickly as it had taken me over. I was emptied. They made to go. Rom in Breton t-shirt and blue drill shorts. I kissed George goodbye and turned to Rom. Strangely, I didn't want to kiss him. We waved instead. "Bye-bye, Belle," he said, chillingly adult, with a smile, and was gone. I must say that I had fearful dreams, both waking and sleeping, inhabited by wolves, skeletons, and extraterrestrial monsters. George and I phoned every day. Rom was no trouble. His new sisters loved him, as did Mum Clara. He was speaking like a grown-up and showed all the signs of genius in everything he did, particularly with the computer. Oh, and his hair had darkened to the same brown as George's, and his eyes had gone brown as well. Not uncommon in 2-year-olds. But it did make me think. Then, one day, a quiet George phoned me. "He's gone." "What?" "An hour ago. He was in the supermarket with Clara, trotting independently up and down the aisles, as he does. Then, suddenly, she saw him out on the pavement through the store window. There was a big 4x4. The driver was packing the boot with store bags. A well-dressed woman stood there, listening to Rom talk, apparently entranced, beguiled. Then Rom indicated the back door and she opened it, giving him a mock bow. He turned and waved to Clara. The Range Rover moved off. Clara didn't run, didn't show any emotion. She didn't even phone me. When she returned to tell me, she said, finally, "George, Rom was a joy, but I couldn't have gone on much longer. He was too much joy. I just feel that the timing was right." "And you know, Belle," added George, "I feel the same. Great while it lasted. Glad it's all over. Hope you don't feel we've let you down." "No, George, absolutely not. I felt the same when he went to live with you." Today, I walked past the churchyard. I took a look inside. The skull and drum bone were still there. I buried them in the grave the wolves had dug up. It felt like my small role in Rom's story was now complete. Well, there we go. That was The Hitchhiker. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe to this channel and, if possible, pass the link on to your friends. In the meantime, if you prefer to read rather than hear stories, go to my site, which is www.jacksanger.com. And there you can download novels, plays, short stories, and even poetry, all for free, or if you wish, make a donation. It's entirely up to you. So in the meantime, enjoy life. Bye-bye.